For everyone here, we all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. People chiming in, tuning in already over on our social media. Again, places where you can find us there most reliably anyway. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot to get into here today. Sometimes, okay, maybe it's just me. I almost feel like outside of breaking news, those kind of things, that Mondays end up being some of our busiest news days of the week, just because so much has percolated through, been set up, or may have come in like late Friday because, well, it's kind of an open secret that if you want to make sure something gets a little bit buried, you send out the news release like 3:30, 4 o'clock local time on a Friday, because no one's going to touch that till probably Monday. So it happens on occasion, but for the most part, we're talking about a lot of things that are definitely affecting us here in the Borderland. Among other things, just because it's probably pretty important public service here, make sure you're not giving out any personal information or payments for anyone calling you randomly on the phone. What the local sheriff's department is saying when it comes to that. And then in further statewide law enforcement, the report coming out from the legislature, as was promised over the weekend, on the Uvalde shooting and the, well, failures therein, going into what some of the main takeaways there are and what it sets up. And also there were some statewide political questions lingering a little bit, including who will continue to be the Democratic Party chair, and also about some of the donations going into one of those major gubernatorial campaigns. Okay, there's two, so you can guess which one here. And Flaco Jimenez saying, J-Lo got married, just kidding, no one cares. I'm right there about with you. It always just seemed fitting to me, the grocery store checkout line, that even as weird as they are now, like you got your National Enquirers, and then you've got your celebrity gossip mags, because they about, belong next to each other in my mind, with what is important or completely unimportant discussed there. Hey, if it makes money for someone, I'm not going to begrudge it for them, but boy, you can miss me with that stuff here. So, as we already have some people chiming in online, also dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. A lot of stuff that we are talking about today. Again, some more things on the Texas grid, another alerts being put forth, but not exactly affecting us here, but we are still looking at our own seriously sweltering temperatures. No, we're not creeping ever closer to becoming a weather station, but seriously, when we're looking at us not even being the hottest in Texas right now, that's weird, but we're still going to be topping the thermometer with a lot of our owns here today. So let's get into that. Some of the stuff that is affecting us here locally, just to get it right out of the way, is that the El Paso County Sheriff's Office is getting calls back from people who are saying they individually were contacted by someone claiming to be representing the El Paso County Sheriff's Office and demanding payment for unpaid fines, fees, warrants, court appearances, etc. The major point is that you have to pay us now or you're going to get arrested. You might be sensing a little bit of a similarity between this and previous such attempts, but what the El Paso County Sheriff's Office is saying about that is that they are never, ever, ever going to call you by phone to demand payment, period, full stop. So if you've been a part of this or have had anyone come to you, they really, really, really want you to contact them. El Paso Police Department's non-emergency number, 915-832-4400, 915-832-4400, or the El Paso County Sheriff's Office non-emergency line, 915-832-4408, 915-832-4408. So if anyone, and I do mean anyone, is saying, no, you're in trouble and we're going to be sending someone to your house if you don't pay us right now, I mean, it's gotten to the point where a lot of these times these scammers end up demanding weird forms of payment. It's not even like send a check and it'll be dealt with, or go down to the local office, say, no, you need to go and get us a money order or one of those money sending services or a gift card, and then give us that information, to the point where if you look at a lot of checkout areas these days and like service counters and your favorite big box grocery store that sells those kind of things, saying, please do not send this information to anyone you do not know. Don't send them a code. Don't send them anything. And so they're not too clear on what exactly has been being demanded in forms of payment, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's along those ways here. And of course, the simple answer is, if it smells weird, if it triggers your sense of this is weird, should this be happening this way, hang up and then call the people that are claiming to talk to you directly. So particularly for anything regarding the Sheriff's Office Warrants Unit, they encourage you to call them, 915-546-2214. That way you can find out if there is immediately an outstanding warrant in your name. Again, 915-546-2214. And also anything related to jury duty, if you missed that. And I got one of my letters in the mail the other day. Yay. So we'll see how that hopefully it won't affect programming at all, but I'll keep you all updated as it comes through. But if you're all wondering about it, 915-546-8102, 915-546-8102. So just stay informed. Make sure you know what's going on and what's real out there, because a whole lot of people trying to just make sure that you don't pay attention and bilk you for as much as possible. So that's just what I want to get away at this top of it here. But as much as we focus on some of those big development stories going on, what has been going on with businesses, what's going on with buildings as well, there's a lot of different ways to break it down. We've had some things going on, some buildings going up, some coming down, even within the downtown area, some business closures, and now, El Paso Inc. reporting on a couple of different circumstances started this week on developments or changing ones. The nature of work these days is kind of a hotly debated topic, one we go into more than a little bit. What it means to work for service industry, the constraints are still very real. The amount of different signs I've seen about please be patient with those who have come to work. If you have any concerns about the level of service, please feel free to fill out an application, kind of thing. But also what is even needed for workspaces for those, I guess, more white collar. Is that still a term that we really use when talking about office jobs? Office jobs in general, the kind of things that can potentially be done remote. Well, one major El Paso brand that you'll probably recognize, if only in what it also then produces, Helen of Troy, is considering selling its El Paso facility. Now, it has promised in a letter, again, according to El Paso Inc., to its employees from the CEO that it still fully intends to remain here in El Paso as its headquarters, but that essentially its, huge production plant, $3 billion production plant is, or the $3 billion consumer production giant, exploring a plan to sell our El Paso facility and subsequently lease a smaller portion of our sizable building back from the new owner. I mean, the continuing impacts. If anyone thought that once pandemic restrictions are over, everything will go back to normal. Now, the past is a foreign land, and we can't get back there. So the idea of work changing and them changing how they even handle their facilities, what that might mean for, I know for some people, that whole wholesale facility, the factory direct part of the building that they have, no really great question there. But yeah, it's just continuing to move forward. But that's not the only even building that's being talked about being affected in our local area, including a demolition going on in downtown El Paso and another potential one coming up here. But tell you what, we'll have to get into that here in the next segment. Already due for that one. More comments coming in as well. John Brazelton letting me know it's my civic duty to do jury duty and put the criminals away for decades. I'm okay. This is a weird thing involved with me being on the radio, but I don't think I'm ever actually going to get impaneled. So it feels a little bit like, okay, I probably won't be. I mean, I'd kind of be excited. I've never actually gotten to sit on a jury, but given that my opinions are somewhat well known, well, I guess they might really want me on a case, but I still feel like I'm right for a blackball then. And RJ saying, idea for a new Hallmark card. Happy Jury Duty Day. It's coming up for me early August here. So I'll let y'all know if it's going to affect programming basically at all. Just anytime jury duty comes up, you're going to get that twinge from me, probably involuntary facial twitch until I know what the heck's going to happen there. I've been called like 3 times lately, and it has been annoying as heck. Not necessarily because I haven't actually had to go. They keep getting canceled like the week or even the day beforehand, but it's that whole month of anticipation of like, oh, geez, mark it on the calendar, keep staring at the calendar, keep looking at the website. They have gotten a little bit better with the contact methods. I'll say that because they'll now like text you to say it's not, but also given the amount of scams that happen, I've also been a little bit dubious that like, okay, is this text real? And then I go through all the motions anyway of actually trying to make sure that I know what the heck the status is, because I mean, I don't want a warrant out for me on that. So it's a little bit home for me, I guess is what I'm saying. And Vladimir saying retirees need something to do. I mean, jury of your peers, yes, I get it, and I fully support the service, but boy, is it a long time to, like, it'd be one thing like, oh, hey, by the way, show up next week. Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah, there's the reason it's still right for the jokes that it is here. But let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Again, you are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We'll get to more of the comments here, including what Ed Clore just posted after this break. Again, social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can get us in through the show. Open up those phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. If you are looking to make sure that you and your family are getting the good stuff at the table, you know what I mean. Like, sure, anyone can throw together something simple, basic, and, well, more or less satisfying. Really taking it to that next level, well, take some quality ingredients. Think about it this way. The quality of your ingredients is the best it can possibly be. So, sure, the wonderful arts of chefery can certainly take you a lot of places, but starting with quality ingredients is the simplest, easiest way to make sure that your food turns out simple and delicious no matter what you are cooking here. So one of those things that I input and think about quite a lot, use it over this weekend myself, is some of that great supply from our friends over at Enhanced Flavors. They have got many different varieties, 40 plus, as a matter of fact, of extra virgin olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and flavored olive oils. Was using some of their dark balsamic vinegar to make a simple, mix bruschetta salad. So whatever you can find and make it for yourself. Doesn't have to be complex, but it can always be delicious, or you can take it to whatever level you can and really help spice up your life. Find them online, again, at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com, or out in the community often these days at the Country Club Farmers Market on Saturdays. But in any case, again, the source for all the information on them, enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On El Paso traffic this afternoon, Joe Battle Boulevard, southbound at Zaragoza. Watch for a crash that's blocking the right turn lane. Gateway Boulevard, westbound at Chelsea. An injury accident reported. Accident blocking the left shoulder in the lower valley on Loop 375, northbound at Alameda. And just a reminder, South Desert Boulevard, southbound between the Loop and Artcraft closed today for roadwork. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Find yourself going through life ignoring the totals on your receipts? Oh, I can't bring myself to look. We've got your shot at $1,000 with Inflation Vacation. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Governor Kim Reynolds kept Iowa free during the height of COVID. Get to know Governor Kim Reynolds better on The Truth with Lisa Booth. And make sure to listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and all throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Babbel. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at babbel.com/TNC.
I thought learning a language would be too much work. Then I discovered Babbel. They make learning fun. J'aime Babbel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes. And in 3 short weeks, you turn around and realize, hey, I can actually speak another language. Es como magia.
My friend from Italy said my accent and pronunciation is perfect. It's because Babbel's lessons are designed by language teachers and voiced by real native speakers.
I love that there's all kinds of ways to learn. Babbel's podcast or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
You learn words and phrases you actually use in real conversations.
In 3 weeks, I was speaking another language. So easy.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than Babbel.
To try Babbel free, text radio to 64,000. Text RADIO to 64,000 to try Babbel free. Text radio to 64,000.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen for life for more information.
Okay, open wide. Good to see you've been flossing. What's on your chest? Oh, that's just my lentil soup. It was supposed to be here an hour ago. I'll say it's unprofessional. We should have ordered through Easy Cater. Food shows up on time as ordered. Yeah, it really burns me up too. Oh, the soup. Oh, hold my crackers. I'll go get the lead apron.
Some food just doesn't work at work, but Easy Cater just does. Food for work on time and as ordered from over 85,000 restaurants. Order 24/7 at easycater.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversations going on there. Chiming in right now, John Brazelton, Ed Clore, Flaco Jimenez, RJ, and more. Also leaving those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Matt Olson, Ed Clore, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Right before the break there, posted as I was getting into it. Ed Clore posting, I think, a clip from the recent El Paso Matters story. Came out end of last week that El Paso Water Utility seeks $441 million in additional revenue bonds and issues drought emergency. And talking a little bit about some of the estimations here. Again, Ed saying here, water rate estimates presented to the board would spike typical household costs for water and wastewater from $666.99 to an estimated $93.94 a month, and an increases over 5 years, a 41% in total changes. You wouldn't be blamed for thinking, wait, didn't we just have that happen? Because also, as El Paso Matters notes, there was previously, even just earlier this year, approximately $356 million in revenue bonds. So this would be an additional amount, bringing the total, we're getting to, this is going to be just under $800 million this year to cover future construction projects here. So these don't need taxpayer approval, as is often very, very, very much focused on, not for no reason, of course, but it does have to end up going to city council. Now, the El Paso Water Board itself approved this 6-0, but will now go before El Paso's city council to grant the additional bonds. So that'll be coming up here. Also, one other thing noted, just completely related to this, by El Paso Matters, that there are going to be some of the city reps seeking to lower the proposed property tax rate. We talked a little bit about that in recent days, about how there will technically be a change, but, well, with the tax bill still trending higher, given the way that property valuations have gone up even higher, that's definitely going to come up here. And Flau came in saying, talk about millions like we talk about a couple of 20s here. That whole phrase, a million here, a million there, you start talking real money, though it depends on the scale you're at these days. Like, sure, local, million here, million there, national, billion here, billion there, or we're even getting close to. I'm not going to be surprised if within the next decade or so, if everything continues on the same trajectory, we start looking at simple, like Take, for example, the recent passage of the National Defense Authorization Act. I think we were at, what, $800 billion recently for this one, depending on how you break it down, that whole complex nature of legislation and budget requests and funding. And yeah, just those ever so simple topics. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing trillion with a T there before too long. So yeah, billion here, billion there, you start talking real money. Or particularly when it comes to defense projects, I want to say it was Winston Churchill back before his time as the actual prime minister, saying something along the lines of the Defense Department demanded 10 battleships or heavy cruisers. The ministry only said we could have 7, so we ended up settling on 13. That happens a lot, particularly in defense, but also that model can be written off in a whole lot of different ways. So yeah, a lot more focus on the taxes, of course, coming here. John Brazelton chiming in along those lines, saying, wait until UMC, the city, county, and your favorite school district add their tax increases. Texas needs correcting himself to say, Proposition 13 really bad. Yeah, the idea of keeping them capped. Let's just say with the new home purchase we've been working through, we are definitely going to be filing that homestead exemption as soon as we're able to, because yeah, this is going to be quite the ride, I'm sure. So let's just say I have, not that I've never not been concerned about the level of taxation and the ways it's even being considered, but something going to hit a bit more home for me, feels like, coming up here. But we're talking about buildings and the economic development that we often focus on here in the area. So with Helen of Troy looking to sell with an asterisk next to it, like they definitely want to get the revenue from the building, it sounds like, but then also lease part of it back, probably the production area. And I'm just going to assume, based on factors and what else is going on, keep the production facilities and essentially keep things, well, remote as much as possible, because as there's a lot of conversation that's going on, the idea of what's needed in-house, what is not, what can be done without actually having to pay for or cost employees transportation fees, the idea of just having an office space for the sake of having it. Those are ongoing conversations that I don't expect to be settled for some year yet, if really ever, with every company probably taking it on its own way. But there's not even the only building we're talking about there. I'm sure they'll still produce stuff, but they've also got production around the world. If you're not familiar with Helen of Troy, I definitely guarantee you've seen their products. Honeywell is one of them. The whole Brut line and a whole lot of others. They have a lot of products out there that they produce. So the idea, according to El Paso, Osprey packs, Hydro Flask, Curlsmith, Vicks, and OXO. Yeah, you've definitely seen OXO. We can basically guarantee that. But some of the other buildings going on, you may have recalled recently, particularly on the west side, if you ever go down near where it becomes Sunland Park Drive, but changes from Shadow Mountain and Mesa on the west side. If you go just a little bit further up Shadow Mountain, there's been this large, oddly shaped, but vacant lot that has been at various points been overgrown or cut back. You may have heard, I remember reporting on this back in the TV days some years ago, about there potentially being the West Side Tower developed there, going to be, well, proposed initially as being roughly maybe twice the size of what I still consider the K-Fox Tower. I know they're not there anymore, but that's going to stick in my head forever. But that's about roughly 10 plus story building. That's right there, the kind of only high rise in there. It stands out if you know the area I'm talking about. So that plot of land, that potential for it would have been impacting, but actually having driven by that area recently, I noticed that there was a new sign, a new zoning sign putting forth the idea of hearings, and some of those initial hearings have now happened. So El Paso Inc. reporting on that as well, that a new kind of development, a new plan for it is now moving forward. No longer going to be the huge necessary thing. It'll still be pretty big, just not necessarily as vertically big, looking at about a 5-story mixed-use apartments, retail, and restaurant kind of design and kind of facility. So El Paso Inc. gets some of those pictures up from the planning board meetings, etc., that has allowed it to move forward. And yeah, it was a 22-story tower previously, and that would have been, impressive, but a little bit nuts. Like, I shared some of the traffic concerns, I'll be freely honest with you. But so they're looking at more building coming. One of the ways every time I drive past that area, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they are doing something new, is when they cut back all the brush again. And it happens within the last 3 to 6 months, give or take. Don't necessarily notice these and document them exactly, but I did take a picture of that new sign. So now it will be with some zoning changes on it, because even outside of the initial zoning request that they were looking at, this is going to be a little bit different from that. So it is beginning to move forward, now poised to go before, of course, City Council. So there is still some, even as we're talking about some of those business closures, some of those business changes. I mean, if you want to go a little bit further on the west side, over there at the Westtown Marketplace, been noticing that construction is still continuing apace of those, the Schneider Electric facilities. So things are still moving forward, even as we have talked about other issues, including from El Paso Inc., about economic slowdowns, economic downturn, the potential there. They won't necessarily hit uniformly, I guess might be the best way to put it, with a lot of different expectation. And housing, well, that's been no secret that one has been of particular contentious nature there. And Flockerman is saying that they're going to block Crazy Cat residents' Sunset View. Maybe not. We'll see. Definitely a lot lower than it used to be, but that's just one of the things we're talking about here today. We got to get into some of those. A lot more comments coming in about some of those defense projects as well. And yeah, we'll get into that here and a whole lot more. Plus, of course, some of those more statewide things. There were some questions coming up about fundraising amounts, where it was coming from. Well, one big number coming out about that ever so slightly contentious and contended local candidate name, or nominee name, I guess we should say, and with fundraising has come there. We're talking about O'Rourke, and we'll get to that here after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more comments coming in, and we'll get to squeeze in more what we can here as we bottom of the hour, the first hour of the program, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The Democratic nominee for governor of Texas will launch a 49-day campaign tour in his hometown of El Paso. Beto O'Rourke plans to hold more than 70 events in more than 65 counties as he campaigns against incumbent Republican Governor Greg Abbott. The event in El Paso is happening tomorrow, Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Lowbrow Palace on Texas Avenue. This comes as new polls show that Governor Abbott's lead over O'Rourke is shrinking. With summer break coming to an end, parents across the borderland are feeling the burn of back-to-school costs. Prices of school supplies have gone up this year, and for many parents, it can be a financial burden. School districts across El Paso say that they will help if parents need help supplying their kids what they need. Also, KFOX 14 will be hosting a back-to-school drive at Bassett Place on July 30th. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Checking your El Paso traffic, I-10 westbound at Schuster, that stalled SUV blocking the center lane is all cleared off to the right. All lanes back open there. On the 110 southbound at the 54, heavy congestion at exit 20B with a backup to the I-10 interchange. Joe Battle southbound at Zaragoza, an accident blocking the right turn lane, and an injury accident with police on the scene airway southbound at Edgemere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have dangerous heat returning to parts of the borderland, and that does include El Paso and Las Cruces. And for that reason, the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Team has now issued a weather warn starting tonight, mainly for your Tuesday. We also have a heat advisory for Tuesday as a result of this dangerous heat returning. Be mindful and be careful during this time. For the latest, log on to kfoxtv.com.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents, and 2 pocket paper folders at just 25 cents each. In-store only, offer ends 8/27, limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
Red Pilled America is the storytelling show everyone is talking about. This week, we reveal the agenda behind the phrase cultural appropriation and how it's being used to keep you in check. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets we're on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there as well. Talking Menace, RJ, John Browsleton, and Gloria and Maria Coleman. The comment on that whole El Paso water situation. That next, again, using the correct phrase here, $441 million in additional revenue bonds. Shorthand, what might that mean there is that this is going to come directly from revenue generated by the water utility, which of course does come directly from ratepayers, aka you and me, unless you're off-grid doing something about this, listening from space. I don't know. Point is, the vast majority of people probably tuning in here are going to be affected by this, unless you're just totally not in the area. Anyway, Maria Coleman saying, I understand that water is becoming the new gold, but how much can the homeowner assume? It appears much of the acquired debt does not include voter input. How did this situation become the norm, and what can be done to change the current practice? The theory is that the city council is elected to implement our wishes, but current voting by them doesn't seem to reflect it, getting some of the frustration having had over some recent votes and such. And I don't mean to sound trite here, but if you want to talk about a long-term solution, it's more people being involved in holding their elected officials accountable, and particularly in the ballot booth. But I don't mean to pick on you. I mean, there's definitely something that you've caused or that any individual has caused, but it certainly has been something done by group behavior over a long period of time. Again, I don't necessarily see it as this kind of like snidely whiplash, like a twiddling of the mustache, I'm going to do the evil things kind of people or even mentality in place. But there is very much a, well, no one's really paying attention, or we've got these 5 ankle biters. I know that's an interesting phrase, but you people that come and comment regularly, it's often easy for, I think, in the mind of certain elected officials to then write it off as like, well, these are the only people who care, and everyone else, like, as long as I'm doing it in good faith, they won't care. Maybe. I don't know. I'm definitely putting some words in some mouths here, but that's the sense I get, and I don't think that it's too controversial to say that that's probably a sense that other people have out there. So by actually paying attention and talking about these things, that's one thing I hope to at least maybe just incrementally move the goalposts a little bit, advance it down the yards more accurately, try to get more people involved in thinking about, because, yeah, $441 million there, $356 million there, you start talking real money. Heck, we're getting pretty close to the whole billion with a B kind of reckoning as it is. Of course, water is important here. Not going to get anyone here saying that water doesn't matter unless they're like actually just like a total misanthrope. But that's a separate situation. We'll handle that should that reasoning actually come up. But the way it's being done, yeah, transparency and the ability of people to know some answers about it. Flaque Menace encouraging going and biting some ankles with Barbara. Again, I kind of use the phrase affectionately, even if I know it might conjure up some imagery for some people there of a little yippy dog. But honestly, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the most vocal people out there tend to get more stuff done. One of the reasons I want to talk about things. Anyway, yeah, there will be that $356 million bond is a 30-year bond that will be allowing for the paying of construction projects and also paying off commercial paper debt. And this new one, the breakdown from El Paso Matters, it will be $240 million to pay off its line of credit, $193 million to use for additional construction projects, $7.8 million to be used for paying of bond insurance. And also PSB requires an interest rate of 6.5% or lower, and the bond will need to be paid back in 25 years. So these kind of concurrent bonds being the potential here. So again, let's just call it roughly $800 million. I mean, 441 plus 356. Again, billion there. You start talking some serious money. So with those considerations in mind, what is also going on statewide? I mean, there's a whole lot of state topics that we, of course, are checking in on and paying attention to. But one of the ones that was the most hotly anticipated coming into this week, or really over the weekend, was definitely what was going to be coming out from that legislature report on the Uvalde shooting at Robb Elementary. And the Texas Tribune has some decent layouts of it, some 5 key takeaways. They mentioned here law enforcement failures go beyond local police, that the school safety protocols fell short, that bailouts desensitized school personnel to safety alerts, school shooter gave hints of the oncoming rampage, and the officials didn't have their facts straight in the aftermath of this shooting. But, well, of course, one of the people involved in it and connected to our local area, State Rep Joe Moody, Democrat representing El Paso in the Texas legislature, some of the things that he was mentioning about in a series of tweets put out yesterday afternoon, saying that, just quote directly from him, talking initially about the upcoming anniversary, of course, of August 3rd, the 3rd anniversary there, and saying that after that we kept asking, why did it happen to us? Today we give some answers in Uvalde, and while it won't make up for the unspeakable loss, El Pasoans know how important the truth is. Going on to say the report we've given points to something complex. It's hard to hear that there were multiple systemic failures because we want to tell ourselves the system works, that there's one person we can point our fingers at, and this won't happen again. Continuing on a further tweet to say that is not true. What happened here is complicated, but there's also, pardon me, a call to action in this report because systems are something we can and must improve. The report is a baseline of info we can all work from. Talking more about some of the situations and his motivations for continuing on with this. So it's just kind of very basically, sparsely setting the table for a lot of further conversations. I know that, among others, Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying that he is thanking the House for that Uvalde investigative report, saying that he is the detailed account shows there are serious concerns on how police responded to Robb Elementary on May 24th. And the governor promises the legislature will start coming up with bills to improve public and school safety. Among other things, the report found law enforcement failed to prioritize student and teacher safety over their own lives. And of course, 21 people died as a result of the shooting there. One of the more interesting things, you may have heard me in those takeaways the Texas Tribune was mentioning here, most of them, I guess, what we have known throughout of this, maybe not the most surprising here, though something also being looked at by Governor Greg Abbott is the involvement of state troopers and other outside, making up between a fourth and a third of the actual responding officers there and what they did or didn't do at that time. So this report is by no means the end of the investigation, I fully expect, but that bailouts, we're not talking about a Wall Street or a bank bailout. We're talking about, as the Texas Tribune mentions it here, that's essentially, given the proximity of Uvalde to the border, of not exactly the whole kind of way I think about it, like the Tijuana human mass rush, but rather individuals crossing and then crashing a vehicle once pursued and then scattering out of it, that apparently there were 47 secure or lockdown events Uvalde schools since late February, and about 90% were attributed to bailouts, according to the committee and the report here. So, yeah, it's a more than a little bit of a mess in a lot of ways. Quoting directly from the report, Uvalde CISD parents became so concerned about the number of bailouts occurring near the elementary school campuses, they offered to hire off-duty police to supplement the Uvalde CISD police presence. So there was a notification system in place, but it's, well, I am not entirely ashamed, but a little bit to say that, like on my phone, I've turned off the Amber Alerts because, among other things, they are never here, and it was 2 a.m. too many that those were going off full volume, full blast. So, sure, notification is important, but if it's not kept for those strictly important and very locally relevant things, well, desensitization can occur here. So I can kind of sympathize with that here, and a lot more comments coming in on that point here. RJ saying when a guy totes around a dead cat and when his nickname is School Shooter, it's time to take a serious look. Yeah, that also, of course, being mentioned in the report, some of the activities, proclivities, and character of the shooter involved here. So, yeah, it is very serious here. John Broslin back on the water issue saying most of the water increases are to be used to control flooding throughout El Paso County. It'd be much cheaper to buy the houses and businesses that are being flooded and prohibit future building in those areas. It's an interesting local conversation aspect that I've seen come up a couple of times. I don't think it's really been seriously considered the way you're suggesting it here, but it also smacks of, well, some of the discussions happening on in like coastal or more what you would consider actually flood-prone areas where people will get, disasters happen and then build back and it keep happening. So that might be something that really wouldn't have been expected to have affected us here, but might be part of that conversation going forward. So a lot more comments coming in there, as well as including some conversation about defense and the defense budget there. But tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now, and we will go ahead and open up the phone lines as we do usually at this point during the program. So if you're wanting to call in during the show, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM, discussing all the things we can cram into a couple hours anyway that affects us here in the Borderland. So don't go anywhere. Right back after this break. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking your El Paso traffic, I-10 westbound at Schuster. That stalled SUV blocking the center lane is all cleared off to the right. All lanes back open there. On the 110 southbound at the 54, heavy congestion at exit 20B with a backup to the I-10 interchange. Joe Battle southbound at Zaragoza, an accident blocking the right turn lane, and an injury accident with police on the scene airway southbound at Edgemere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Get inspired during Dell's Black Friday and July sale with up to $500 off select computers like XPS laptops and Alienware systems with Intel Core processors. Plus, get great financing with a Dell Preferred account and free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We make car buying fun, fast, and easy, and our goal is to ensure everyone gets the lowest price possible with exceptional trade-in values.
At Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, no one pays over MSRP on every new car, truck, and SUV in stock. Plus, save big on every certified pre-owned vehicle. For a limited time, get 0% APR for 60 months on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating. Get up to $8,000 off select new Ram trucks or super low 2.9% APR for 72 months. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This the Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $1,667 and 2.9% APR is $1,515 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined. Excludes Hellcat, SRT, and TRX models.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. Plastic waste in the environment persists for hundreds to thousands of years and creates serious risks for wildlife, ecosystems, and humans. Help reduce plastic waste by replacing single-use plastic packaging, bottles, and containers with reusable products. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Is it senior abuse at this point? Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast, Joe Biden clearly has lost his cognitive function. He's basically like a child. So why are we allowing his family to exploit him for their financial gain? I'll explain it. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today, focusing on the impacts of the Borderland and, of course, beyond, local involvement, etc. A couple of things also to mention about some of those statewide offices, among other things, including went on with the Texas Democrat Convention wrapping up this weekend, and also some focus on some of the largest donations being given to the O'Rourke campaign. But as I did mention, we do have that phone line open here. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Kathy Codry asking about what RJ posted about dead cats and nickname is school shooter. Yes, that was in reference to the shooter there in Uvalde. So, yeah, failures and issues abound with that, which is why, as much as this report sheds light on a lot of it, I fully expect that this will not be the end of everything going on, including investigation. The one lingering question really in my mind at this moment is with Governor Greg Abbott talking about legislation will be developed out of this, if there is a potential for a special session yet. I mean, we're in halfway mark of the year. Legislation tend to be the point when legislation is already gearing up, if not going already anyway, in anticipation of course, the very start of the year legislative session. So it's not out of the question, but we'll see. I haven't really seen any clear signals from the governor about that happening or not, really. It hasn't really anything in regards to it. So it still remains a possibility in my mind until we get there. Let's back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. If you're calling in the middle of a segment, you might get popped up live, so stay on the line there for us. But we do have a call on the line here right now. We have Frankie and Macia with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
You cannot be serious. I heard you make this four-letter comment. The word mess is the most understatement of this whole week about this whole Uvalde and report thing. This is disgusting. It's a disgrace. 14 different ways to fund that. I don't know how the heck you would get around this. I don't care how many reports. The fact of the matter is you got 400-something cops with guns. Their job is to serve and protect the community. And they sat there with their thumbs up their derriere, not to mention this one nut job who decides, his dainty little hands are dirty, and he stops at one of those alcohol stations or whatever you call those things. This is ridiculous. Every single one of these people need to be fired. They're supervisors, everything. They should be persona non grata. That's Latin. Look it up, people. This is disgusting. I can't believe you tough Texans with your fancy 29-gallon cowboy hats and tight little boots. You really need to look in a mirror and see if you're so blasted tough as you are. That's what I want to say.
I don't even necessarily disagree with you on any of the particular points there, even if there have been some finer points. The one officer looking at his phone, I know, so has also been pointed out and has had some response on that as well. But I don't think you'd find anyone reasonably saying that, no, what happened was good. This was a proper response. So mess is the, probably understatement word to just kind of refer to in a apostrophe, the whole damn thing, because there's a lot of other four-letter words that would come to mind, but that's the one we'll use for radio. One finer point to make there, actually, and why this might not progress the way people totally expect. You bring up the concept there, protect and serve. It's emblazoned on a lot of, police department, law enforcement agencies, logos, slogans, paraphernalia, etc. And it's often what people expect to come out of this, but it's a little known thing, and it's been in place at the very least since looking at a New York Times article back from 2005 entitled "Justice's Rule: Police Do Not Have a Constitutional Duty to Protect Someone." Now, this has been seen many times over the years. One circumstance I'm aware of was actually a gentleman riding the New York subway who was attacked by a guy wielding a knife, and it was at one of the end of the cars. If you're not familiar with these layouts are, at the beginning and the end of the small train, there are then the conductor cabs, and there was actually 2 police officers behind the one-way glass, essentially, in that conductor cab, where the guy right outside of it was actively stabbing someone, and the police in that case didn't do anything because they were worried about the threat to themselves. That guy sued, saying they were right there. Don't they have a duty to protect and serve? And not even just was there a full Supreme Court ruling, but it was essentially kicked back down from the Supreme Court in that instance, saying that, no, there is no duty unless you are in custody. There is no constitutional requirement that any law enforcement officer do anything to guarantee your personal safety. So that's why, even with this report out there and hopefully a lot of changes coming, they might not totally go the way that people, expect or anticipate if they have the kind of wrong expectations in mind.
I heard everything you just said, and I'm nonplussed. How? What everything? I can't even speak. How in the world what you just said, which is correct, if you're going to be that kind of a person and you're worried about your own life, you need a different job. If I was in the Army, or when I was in the Army, if my platoon did anything close to what these morons did in Uvalde, I'd be in Fort Leavenworth by now with the rest of my platoon. This is ridiculous. This is outrageous. Outrageous. That's all I want to say about it.
Again, I don't even necessarily disagree with you on any particular point there, but just the expectations that we have about what might come out of this, what might actually be done. Clearly, a lot needs to be, but I don't even think, even with this report, setting the groundwork for what might come next, I think there's still plenty of room, depending on how, like the governor or lieutenant governor, set the agenda for the coming legislative session, whatever comes up, that it could be, I think there might be more controversy at hand here, particularly if those concepts starts becoming highlighted.
Well, rightly so. There should be a lot of controversy. Some smart people in your state of Texas need to get your smart brains together and figure out how the heck this does not happen again. That's what I want to say. You have a good day, Andrew.
Sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one there, too.
All right.
All right, tell you what, we got to take that next break to hit the top of the hour right now. We do have those phone lines up, and we got a lot of comments coming here over on the social media. So we're going to be back right after this top of the hour news break and continue on into the second hour of the program with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. If you're on the line, stay there. Otherwise, we'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the I-10 eastbound at Reynolds, watch for a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Paisano Drive eastbound at the 110, an accident reported. Police responding. On the 10 eastbound at Vinton, a stalled semi is blocking the right shoulder. And an injury accident, Edgemere Boulevard eastbound at Sierra Este is going to slow you down. Take Pebble Hills instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students. We see say for each other.
I see safe because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. An Indiana police chief says a suspect in a mall shooting had multiple weapons and a bunch of ammo on him.
He had multiple magazines and over 100 rounds of ammunition on his person and in his possession.
Greenwood Police Chief James Eisen said the suspect, who was shot and killed by a Good Samaritan, used a rifle to carry out the shooting on Sunday in the city just outside of Indianapolis. They believe he walked to the mall before committing the act. President Biden is cheering the recent drop in gas prices, but he admits the work isn't done. In a tweet, Biden noted prices have gone down every day for more than a month. AAA puts the national average price at $4.52 a gallon. It sat at $4.99 a month ago. A new ACLU report says the Department of Homeland Security paid millions of dollars to track movements of both Americans and foreigners in the U.S. Contracts between Customs and Border Protection, ICE, and other departments showed DHS bought location data without warrants beginning in 2017. It's unclear whether CBP and ICE used the data to arrest certain individuals. The first step needed to recall Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon is being checked off the list. Julie Ryan has more.
The Los Angeles County Registrar is reporting close to 716,000 signatures have been collected in the recall attempt. A full check of the signatures must be done by August 17th to verify validity. The earliest the recall could happen would be November 8th. Critics say Gascon's policies are too soft on crime.
Alleged violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act will cost Uber more than $2 million. That's the result of a settlement with the Department of Justice. Most of that money will go to more than 1,000 riders who were upset about wait time fees. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Britain's Prince Harry is in New York City as the United Nations marks Nelson Mandela International Day today. Scott Pringle reports.
Prince Harry was the keynote speaker at the UN event with his wife Meghan Markle with him. Harry painted a bleak picture of a suffering world while mentioning coronavirus, inflation, the war in Ukraine, and extreme weather events.
As we sit here today, our world is on fire.
Harry calls this a pivotal moment.
We can find meaning and purpose in the struggle. We can wear our principles as armor. Heed the advice Mandela once gave his son to never give up the battle even in the darkest hour.
Prince Harry challenged world leaders to take action to address climate change.
While gas prices are falling, it's still a big expense for most people, and scammers are looking to take advantage. The Better Business Bureau says to watch out for fake gas cards being pushed over text messages, email, and social media. The BBB says scammers are asking consumers for payment of a small fee. The Navy is announcing that for the first time, a woman is being named to the famed Blue Angels. Lisa G. reports.
Lieutenant Amanda Lee will fly as one of the core members of the aerial demonstration team. She has to go through some additional training before she officially starts performing, which means her first event won't be for several months. The Blue Angels have been a featured attraction at the Bethpage Air Show at Jones Beach on Long Island for years.
Football season is here. NFL training camps get underway this week as rookies from multiple teams are due to show up before veterans begin reporting for duty this weekend and into next week. The Hall of Fame game featuring the Jacksonville Jaguars and Las Vegas Raiders is scheduled for August 4th. Preseason games will follow throughout August before the Buffalo Bills visit the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams to kick off the season on September 9th. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Money. That's money. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries. Wendy's knows everyone hates cold and soggy fries, so they changed theirs to serve them up hot and crispy all day, every day, using only natural cut skin-on fries, prepared to golden goodness and perfectly sprinkled with sea salt. Try Wendy's Hot and Crispy Fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org. M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
What can you hear on the free iHeartRadio app? Well, let's do it. Everything. Tap radio to listen to live radio stations from across the country and around the world. Need a playlist to fit your mood or set the mood? We got them, from working out to chilling out and everything in between. And nobody has more podcasts than the free iHeartRadio app. Uncover unbelievable true crime stories or laugh out loud comedy podcasts from the biggest names in the business. Download the free iHeartRadio app now and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
You can't help but look at a car wreck on the side of the road. Yet we turn a blind eye to the things we should be looking at.
What are we doing? It's not like we didn't know. We know. We are turning our eyes.
The Glenn Beck Program.
I have no tolerance anymore for people who say, I just can't look at it.
Listen and look.
You don't have that option.
Glenn Beck. Mornings at 7.
What can you do? Here's something you can do.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk, a lot of comments coming in from all these sources here. Just as a note, if you go on a little bit long, it'll definitely show up in the social media. We might not be able to put it up on screen, though, as it does cut off after roughly a paragraph or so. So pithy tends to work a little bit better if you want to put it up here, but by all means, say what you feel you need to. Mary Coleman making a lengthy comment that I'll read in part here, just won't show up all on screen. Just one of those technical aspects, but also dropping those likes, reacts. We do appreciate Cal Williams, Ida Beza Gardner, Matt Olson, Ed Clor, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. A lot of stuff we're getting to here. Kathy Kodry on the Uvalde situation, kind of responding to RJ saying, I see a scapegoat for or a few and some serious thought about moving to Madagascar. Some of these guys are not going to be able to show their face. And Kathy Kodry saying further on, those cowards should be removed immediately and arrested and charged with multiple charges and dereliction of duty. That's, again, one of the finer points I think that is probably going to be taking off people a lot in the coming days and weeks, is that necessarily, specifically, they may not have been. Unless there was an order that was being missed that they did not follow, or a task, a duty they were given specifically, that may not happen. I am not a lawyer. I do not pretend to give legal advice, but given my reading on a lot of these similar situations, I think that, some serious restructuring and policy is going to be changed, but individual, prosecutions, for lack of this, may not come. Yeah, RJ, unfortunately agreeing with me, and I am sorry that is true here. That's saying that I'm right. Cowardice isn't against the law, but we'll see what the law comes out of this here. A lot more comments. Marky Mendingo saying, Mark, kind of responding back saying you can call them wusses, but I'm sure they aren't. Too bad the cop who has a beat on the shooter had to ask for permission to shoot. He should have shot and dealt with the consequences later. He would have been a hero. Now he is a zero. I mean, armchair quarterbacking is an easy thing to do. I'm not calling out anyone specifically for commenting on this. This is going to be a focus of conversation for quite a long time. I have no doubt in my mind. But saying what you would have done in the situation, this is one of the reasons why, and I'm not aware of anyone locally or even regionally that I could go to, but there are essentially training scenarios where you're put in front of essentially a screen and you're then tasked with the shoot, no shoot decision. I've long been interested in trying to see if one of those is available and going and experiencing for myself, because that level of pressure in the moment, it's, again, real easy to say with full thought and clarity what I would have done. But in the moment, well, training, systems, support, all of these things come up. But let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call if you want to chime in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Teresa and Alamogordo on the line with us right now. Teresa, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to talk about the seriousness of the border.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like it's a very serious national security problem, and just adding to all the other things that, you know, the gangs, the block, all that other stuff. We've got two enemies. We've got China and we've got Russia, and people, they got to think that those guys are going to come across. They are going to come across, and they have plans against America, and we don't want another 9/11. You know, they really need to close the border. And I'm even thinking this, is it called amnesty? Where they say that, you know, we're coming here because we're in danger at our country.
Oh, you're talking about asylum. I think asylum is what we're referring to there.
They need to, pardon me?
Asylum, I think, is the one you mean there.
Oh, asylum. Yeah, asylum. They need to really dial that back, because, I mean, they're using that as an excuse for so many people to come in. They're not vetting them. And it's just really bad. We really need to have national security. And so I just was going to say, I encourage everybody to call their representatives and tell them that, you know, we don't like this. This is a national security. Our whole country could be in very much danger.
I mean, I don't particularly disagree with you on any point there either. The way it seems to have come down in our modern political environment is that we have this bifurcated response here that only one is ever focused on by any particular party at a time. Either it's the security aspects, which can then leave us, as we've seen on the Texas side of things when Governor Greg Abbott made his decisions, we saw a lot of, at least short term for that duration of time, economic and supply chain impacts, or it's solely on the immigration side, when really I find no compunction on saying a comprehensive response is needed. Like, yes, dealing with the demand, the need, the push through, as there's been more tightening restrictions. We've seen, like, well, what happened in San Antonio, among other things. But the idea of there not being security along with that is laughable. Like, they're not being both at the same time, but we keep not having that kind of a solution, because also the idea of compromise within this, that we're doing this while also doing something that I might not totally be focused on or even has a priority, not even necessarily disagree with, but just don't see as the priority. I mean, compromise is still a 4-letter word in Washington. So I find myself similarly frustrated about the way we're not seeing advancement on this.
Right. So thank you very much, Andrew.
No, sure thing. Appreciate it. And for anyone wondering here about the call-in area, I mean, our broadcast area goes quite a long way, so more than welcome to call in from Alamogordo. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you, Andrew. Bye.
Because, I mean, yeah, these regional issues, okay, we call it Talk El Paso, but the way I always think about it is not as and therefore you must be within the city limits between, Canutillo and Horizon City, otherwise you can't. No, we're regional. It's the El Paso region. That's the way I think of it. And sometimes we also think borderland. That's why I use the phrase borderland, which is this whole damn area. Really, again, if you're in the broadcast area, or even if you're interested in the things that affect us here, because, I mean, online, you can hear us from just about anywhere around the world. More than welcome to do so. So some more comments. Kathy Codry making the point about fentanyl, tons, probably literally in culmination, coming across the southern border and killing millions of Americans. We're not, well, at least not in recent years. We're looking at about, in terms of overdoses, estimate in the 80 to 100,000 last year anyway. But, I mean, the opioid crisis that this plays into has, of course, killed an order of magnitude more. it's an issue. Not going to even downplay it at all. It's a serious issue. And the insidious nature of fentanyl is one of the more concerning things, because you could be doing something totally legitimate. I mean, heck, there could be even trying to package it to look like normal over-the-counter medications just for the hell of it. There's literally nothing stopping them, just their own design capabilities. And then you could find yourself ODing on something that you didn't like. I mean, it could be basic, again, painkillers, and you have no idea. That's why it's one of the more concerning aspects. Also, the border security. I don't find it controversial at all to say that we should know everything happening at the southern border. At the same time, there also should be considerations made for legal immigration, because saying that, I mean, I know that when I hear close the border, shut down the border, that kind of thing, I'm thinking about it in the legal term of a sealing of the border, stopping any crossing, period, the way it's often done governmentally. So maybe I react a little bit too strongly in that way, because I think the way it's coming to be more in common use is a preventing any unauthorized crossings. Though, I guess I still have that conversation to be had here. Let's get at least to one more call on the line before we hit that next break. Again, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Calvin in Far East on the line here with us right now. Calvin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, I appreciate you taking my call.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Real quick, I want to say, everybody attacking the police in Uvalde, you weren't there. Okay, there was a police sniper that shot a guy that was shooting through the wall in a woman's house into another woman's apartment, shooting up the kids in that. The police took the shot and took him out. And guess what? Now they're being protested. This is ridiculous. You weren't there. Wait for the facts, because the whole public right now is trying them in the public eye, and they're going to be guilty in the public eye. But when the facts come out in court, they're going to be found innocent, because you don't have all the facts right now. And then everybody's going to be upset about that. If you just want to be upset, then just go be upset, but keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, that happens. And of course, a lot of the cases we see here, and why I have certain expectations at this point, but what should actually be done, and in terms of like lab-basting any particular office, the way I think about it is this, in essence, that police, law enforcement in general, particularly local police, are tasked with a monumental duty of keeping things safe, keeping a community in general safe, and the work and training it takes to do that should also be similarly as intensive and monumental in its own right, and sometimes isn't. And again, that's why I wanted to do one of those like shooter training kind of simulations is the correct term for it, because getting in that mindset, what it takes to know what to do in that exact moment and switch between it is, I mean, there's almost no way to describe it, to make that decision, shoot, don't shoot, how to react. Again, a lot of armchair quarterbacking here. And I think there are reasonable criticisms, because as much as there is a lot expected of these officers, so much is also granted to them in power over us. So I don't think it's unreasonable to hold them to high standards, but also I think that, there's a potential for a mob mentality to develop here about, let's just, go and burn it all down, essentially. And that is as equally unproductive. I'll fully agree with you there.
Yeah, and when you talk about the training, all these people, I know how to do it. I did it in the military. I stacked on a door. You stacked with a team of 4. Now, you tell me what police department, other than the SWAT team, travels 4 men around in a squad car so they can all show up at the same time. It doesn't work that way in the real world. Everybody is exaggerating what they want to go through. And as far as a stress test, there is a big difference between running and being tired and shooting and being shot at, scared, and breathing heavy and shooting back. These people don't seem to understand that.
Yeah, oftentimes when it's not necessarily in this circumstance, but why couldn't you have shot him in the arm, something else? Even people who are saying, well, I've gone to a range of shotguns before, I've done that. Have you ever been on a 2-way range? Because that's a very, very different. I haven't. I will freely admit that. And I know that is a completely different consideration.
That's exactly it, Andrew. I appreciate you taking my call and letting me vent. Plan to get back to the Skeptic Squad, and we'll see you there tomorrow.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much for the point in the call. You have a good one there, too. All right, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, more comments coming in and a whole lot more calls. So if you're on the line there, stay there. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. in all the serious things that we are talking about, and we will continue doing every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., taking care of yourself, your own personal baselines, whether we're talking about food, sleep, health, good grooming, particularly on that last aspect. There is one resource I trust in town above all others, and that is, of course, the official hair and beard sponsor of the show, Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa, because I know that I will go there. Well, it's one less thing on my plate. I will be taken care of and get all those good grooming services that I rely on, and you probably should too, particularly if you want to feel like a king for a day for yourself or the special man in your life. You can give them a call, find out everything they got available for you. Again, I go there for expert hair and beard styling, but also they've got a whole lot, again, the name Barber Salon and Men's Spa. They've got the traditional arts of barbering, plus the new services that you may not even know that you need, but could help you and improve your life. Frankly, quality of life. So give them a call at 915-532-3000. That's 915-532-3000, or find them online at gentsrepublic.com, also over on all their social media, but again, gentsrepublic.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the I-10 eastbound at Reynolds, watch for a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Paisano Drive eastbound at the 110, an accident reported, police responding. On the 10 eastbound at Vinton, a stalled semi is blocking the right shoulder. And an injury accident, Edgemere Boulevard eastbound at Sierra Este is going to slow you down. Take Pebble Hills instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents, and 2 pocket paper folders at just 25 cents each. In-store only. Offer ends 8/27, limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples.
Hey, El Paso. Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We make car buying fun, fast, and easy, and our goal is to ensure everyone gets the lowest price possible with exceptional trade-in values.
At Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, no one pays over MSRP on every new car, truck, and SUV in stock. Plus, save big on every certified pre-owned vehicle. For a limited time, get 0% APR for 60 months on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third row seating. Get up to $8,000 off select new Ram trucks or super low 2.9% APR for 72 months. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make This the Summer event at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus CTNL. 0 APR is $1,667 and 2.9% APR is $1,515 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined. Excludes Hellcat, SRT, and TRX models.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Message and data rates may apply.
If you are a man over 40, listen up, because this could impact how much you're getting done during the day and at night. The harsh reality is, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. Here's the good news. Nugenix, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC, has changed the game again for men over 40 with Nugenix Total T, their most powerful man-boosting formula ever, and guys all over America are raving about it. Jeremy P. says, "This is the best product I've found to raise T levels. I plan on using the product for the rest of my life." And how about Shane D? He says, "I had no drive and was tanked out at the end of the day. After 3 months, my energy level is through the roof. I work out like most 19-year-olds. I am 47. Guys over 40, you need Nugenix Total T. And right now, you can get a complimentary bottle. Just text EDGE to 42424. It's the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. But you can only get your complimentary bottle by texting EDGE to 42424. That's EDGE to 42424. Text EDGE to 42424.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of comments, a lot of calls coming in, full up at the moment, but if you want to chime in a little bit later when you get a moment on the line there, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of stuff we're getting to here today, and as I fully expected, the Uvalde situation, that report out, of course, over the weekend, generating a lot of interest, but also got some other local things being talked about here. James Ratcliffe commenting on a New York Post article and saying, well, Esquire justifies Biden tactics. We have this. Talking about those ransoms, the stash houses, etc. we've been seeing here, so check out that link for yourself. John Browsington, on the idea of military involvement in shooting, saying military studies have shown that when the bullets start flying, a third of a squad of soldiers hit, a third shoot back a little bit, and a third or fewer fight like hell, save everyone's butt. Leadership can lose command or be killed. Everyone ends up on their own resources. I mean, yeah, there's been stats on that going back towards, I want to say some of the stuff I saw was from the Vietnam War about how many, even in firefight engagements, shot over heads, because there's still the idea of it, human in the sights kind of thing. People react humanly, and that's one of the major differences just in military terms between battle-hardened or not troops. But also a phrase that comes to mind whenever we talk about this, particularly in comparison, I mean, I know Frankie brought it up earlier about his time, dereliction of duty, etc., but there are a lot of different considerations in between, well, domestic policing forces and the armed forces, and there should be. Make no mistake. Even if there maybe should be some things, I know there were some people who I know were, say, in Afghanistan and coin operations, if that is a phrase that has meaning to you, about how they were having to deal with and interdict potential threats and how much more restricted they felt. But a quote that often comes to mind here is that, sure, there are maybe some comparisons to be made, but the idea of there being exactly the same things between the police and the military, well, I'm going to quote something that lives rent-free in my head from actually Battlestar Galactica, believe it or not, Commander William Adama. There's a reason you separate military and the police. One fights the enemies of the state, the other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, the enemies of the state tend to become the people. And need a plaque on my wall, honestly, around here somewhere. But a lot more we're talking about here today. And again, if you want to call in during the show, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. At least one more comment I wanted to get to here. Talking about this thing a little bit earlier, that no two situations are ever alike. But I promise to at least mention Maria Kalman's issue and comments. We won't show up fully on screen here, but you can, of course, see it for yourself over on our social media. What she was saying, that it appears in Uvalde, nobody wanted to make the decision. There was a lot of misinformation relayed to various departments on the scene. There is no excuse for the loss of life, but cops have been vilified and defunded over the last few years, and many cops tend to be hesitant in executing their jobs, and many talented cops have left the job due to lack of support. Unfortunately, weakens the department. Some jurisdictions have resorted to hiring less capable applicants. And she goes on there a bit, won't show up on screen here, but let me just say this. There was something actually said during one of the city council meetings I sat in some years ago, that the idea of hiring an officer, that no officer is better than a bad officer. And that may sound paradoxical, because why would you want less people on there? But someone who was improperly trained, wrong mindset in mind, can do more harm than almost not having the service there. So there's a lot of considerations to be made in this here. So that's why I am saying that, yes, it's a mess, and that this report is probably only the beginning of a much larger discussion to now even continue on further. Not exactly been a small discussion before this point, but now that there's some actual things, stats, etc. to point at, I think it'll just continue on even further here. But let's get back to those calls on the line again. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Marco in Central with us right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
Doing right there. What's on your mind?
So the constabulary is what the police is in the state. That's why they fall where they do. We separate the military and the police force because the police force is always closer to the local people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the force shouldn't be military. In some countries they are. I mean, but in some weird ways, ours is too. And let's not forget, there's a lot of ex-militaries that are police officers, and so we should be very thankful.
Oh, absolutely.
The reason I'm calling is about Uvalde, and I know everybody has their opinions. I've looked at the video. I don't want to mention this person's name yet, only because I mentioned it to you, and I want to get your perspective before I mention his name, because I felt that his perspective, because he is an ex-police officer, was very informative to me. Let me state this very upfront. I was very mad. I was saying the same thing. These people were cowards. They should have gone in. Here's the facts, the way they break down, as you see it. This young kid goes in there. There's a young boy in the video who comes out. He sees what's going on. He hears the gunshot, and he runs. This guy goes into the room, and he just starts shooting recklessly. Obviously, we know the end result of his madness. the police go in and they localize where the shots are coming from. They were actually there pretty quickly. And I guess some of these officers were shot. The thing that happens at that point, and this is the tragedy that and this is the difference between an active shooter and a barricaded individual is so important, because police officers at that point thought he became a barricaded individual.
Right.
And so the process of approaching a barricaded individual is different than an active shooter, because at that point he can have hostages. Obviously, they now, in retrospect, the commanding officer should have said regroup and re-engage, because there's people that are alive in there and we need to save them. But they didn't know that. They can't, they don't have X-ray vision. They can't see through the walls. And in their mind, I'm sure this is what happens. See, we all want to react to the room and the activities happening in the room. We all know what's happening in there. There's a school with other children there. Those bullets could be flying through the rooms to other rooms. So the police have to isolate the individual in the room, which is what they do. And then they go around and evacuate the school. There's no cowards there. Okay, I wouldn't call a BORTAC a coward. You're definitely going to get slapped in the face. The BORTAC is the top of the line for the Border Patrol, for any SWAT team. They are the creme de la creme. When they get there, you even see it in the videos that just came out, where the chief of police is negotiating. So that tells me, and also from what I heard from this professional, ex-officer, they were in barricade perspective. He was in the room, he's barricaded, they don't know if he has anybody. The response is minimal. Then they figure out, hey, you know what? There's nobody left in there. We just got to go get this. I don't want to say the word, but we just got to go get this guy. In the video, you see them go in there. You see that they switch up some tactical gear, because initially they had a shield that wouldn't have been able to repel anything. They actually get the proper shield to be able to go in there and engage this madman. And that's exactly what they did. They go in there, they take care of business, and this individual is taking the room temperature challenge at that point.
Right. And I get exactly what you're saying. What I expect out of this, as much as there are the emotional calls and that kind of thing, my expectation is that, honestly, probably anyone in a leadership position will probably take this on the chin, and any systems involved are going to need to be completely revamped. Because even before this point, it was coming to be the standard practice that, no, if there is an active shooter, you don't wait, you don't stop, you don't reconnoiter and wait till there's more. You go and you stop, because time means lives. So if there was bad information, miscommunication, etc., oftentimes, anytime we've had an effect in this community or nearby that affects us these ways, that is often where the failure points come down, is within leadership, is within systems, is within the plans that were established that have fallen completely insufficient here. So I have very little often to say about any individual officer, if I have an issue with them or not, because I put very little fault on them, because it's the support systems for them that often end up being the real points of failure, and what I fully expect will be the major points of the laws coming forward here. So I thank for the point in the call. Tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls on the line here. So if you're wanting to get on the line, make your 2 cents. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. If you're on the line, stay there. Otherwise, back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. The Democratic nominee for governor of Texas will launch a 49-day campaign tour in his hometown of El Paso. Beto O'Rourke plans to hold more than 70 events in more than 65 counties as he campaigns against incumbent Republican Governor Greg Abbott. The event in El Paso is happening tomorrow, Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Lowbrow Palace on Texas Avenue. This comes as new polls show that Governor Abbott's lead over O'Rourke is shrinking. With summer break coming to an end, parents across the borderland are feeling the burn of back-to-school costs. Prices of school supplies have gone up this year, and for many parents, it can be a financial burden. School districts across El Paso say that they will help if parents need help supplying their kids what they need. Also, KFOX 14 will be hosting a back-to-school drive at Bassett Place on July 30th. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound at the loop in the Low Valley, stalled trucks blocking the right shoulder. Watch for an injury accident, Edgemere at Tierra Este causing slowing. An injury accident, Montwood Drive eastbound at South Kleinfeld. And we're just getting a crash with injury southbound Wrestler Drive just south of Belvedere. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have dangerous heat returning to parts of the borderland, and that does include El Paso and Las Cruces. And for that reason, the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Team has now issued a weather warn starting tonight, mainly for your Tuesday. We also have a heat advisory for Tuesday as a result of this dangerous heat returning. Be mindful and be careful during this time. For the latest, log on to kfoxtv.com.
This report is sponsored by Discover. Some banks can make it complicated to redeem credit card rewards, but with Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Talk about amazing. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
If summer is heating up your hiring needs, then you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job and get hiring today by visiting Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station. News Radio 690, KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you very much for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the very many different social media platforms we're up on these days. A lot of comments coming in there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. If you want to chime in on any of those, you're more than welcome to. Plus, those phone lines open now through the end of the program, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And squeeze in there if you want to. Otherwise, over on the social media, Flocka Menace, Richard Lewis, James Ratcliffe, John Browson, Kathy Coterie, Marky Mendingo, RJ, Maria Coleman, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. Ed Clore, Robbie Flores, and a few others chiming in a little bit earlier. So also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Sean Gardner, Marky Mendigo, Calvin Williams, James Ratcliffe, Ida Beza Gardner, Matt Olson, Ed Clore, Flocking Menace, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Just helps us with those algorithmic things. So we appreciate your appreciation. Anyway, not to get into that loop again. Again, the number to call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I was calling to respond to Frankie's comment last week. I believe he made it on Friday. He said I should get my head out of the sand and that I wanted the truth, but my truth. So I want to respond to him and tell that yes, he's correct. I want the truth, not my truth. I want the truth of the 150 suspicious activity reports that Yelling at Treasure is refusing to give to an oversight committee that have been filed against Hunter and Joe. I want the truth because I want to know if some of these decisions that President Biden is making has in any way been affected by the individuals who are sending money to Biden. And Yellen knows and we don't know. And that's not my truth. I want their truth. And I also want to know why Adam Schiff found it necessary to add an amendment to the NDA authorizing the military to withhold any information pertaining to Afghanistan, COVID, and January the 6th. How many Americans did we abandon? And how many Americans are still in Afghanistan? And COVID, we know there are about 1,800 scientists at the CDC and NIAID that are getting royalties or benefits from pharma companies. Does that influence their decision-making there? And on January the 6th, I mean, we have a one-sided investigation going on, and they're not allowing any other information than what the committee is bringing to the American people. So I want to know those truths. And you know what I'd also like to know? Why Mayorkas is withholding information from terrorists, and the only way they will allow Congress to interview these terrorists in their possession or in their custody is if they obtain privacy waivers.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't my truths. I think the American people should be asking their questions. You know, everybody needs to know, what is our government doing? And I really want to know what CFIUS is doing, the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States. They just allowed China to purchase 300 acres in North Dakota, 20 minutes away from an Air Force base that is the home of the U.S. Space Networking Center. These are questions that the American people need answers for. And that's not my truth. I want to know what they're withholding from the American people, because this administration is anything but transparent. So how are we to believe anything we're being told by this administration? And I won't even get into the border, because that would take a whole 2 hours to discuss what they're doing there, with new details just coming out, actually.
As we often have,
Biden administration quietly racing immigration court caseloads. So there's so many untruths, so many lies, to be perfectly honest with you. And we need to get down to how they're affecting Biden's decision making on the border, in China, in Russia, Ukraine, and you know, his son has been everywhere, and so has his brother. And that's the truth I want.
Two specific points you bring up there, and also to your idea of, we've often done a couple of hours on immigration any given time, because it's that complex and that frequent of an issue. I feel like anytime I'm like, well, it'll come back up here soon, it comes roaring back with a vengeance as to just more issues continue to come up. But transparency is key. And frankly, it's almost the stupidest kind of self-own whenever it is a government agency's position or whatever elected official to say, oh, no, we don't really need to know about that. And then the misinformation that you have created the vacuum for, it's just flat out stupidity. There's no other real good or appropriate way to do it, because seriously, not putting out the information, putting out the totality of it and letting people come to an understanding, like, sure, tell them how to interpret if you have to, but saying, no, you don't really need to know that does not, in any general circumstance, unless we're talking about like nuclear launch codes. And even then, I'm a little bit dubious about what is then being kept under that same guise, should be publicly available, because not knowing about it just creates that vacuum of information that then leads to all these other kind of, because sure, there are legitimate concerns out there, levels of things that I want to know. And then it also opens the door for just really ridiculous things, the things that we get more into, the theories that we talk about that are not because of the vacuum of information. So it's such a problem in a lot of ways. But I know what the other point you mentioned there about the foreign ownership of land, that coming up a bit more. I know there's been at least some legislation considered here in Texas that has come up in recent legislative sessions, particularly next to, foreign ownership of large tracts of land near military bases. And I've seen more on that coming up lately, so I wouldn't be surprised if in at least state legislatures, if not the national one, depending on what happens in November, of course, that'll set a lot of trajectories. That might not come up as a bit more focused on, because even if there aren't necessarily strictly security considerations, I'm aware of other places in the world that are essentially using it to a harvest of natural resources to be moved out of here. Like, for example, Saudi Arabia, another example I'm aware of, was trying to directly export water for their own agricultural use, and were blocked on that essentially because the amount they were looking to extract would have literally changed the water table in some places. So what they did instead is they just bought the land, were doing agricultural farming of like alfalfa or other incredibly water-intensive crops, and then exported those crops. So essentially they were taking out maybe even more water than they would have been allowed to previously, but were doing it through such uses. So yeah, any kind of that foreign ownership, you want to take another international example of it, New Zealand has had to actually limit and change their constitution to allow for the foreign ownership because they were so worried about people trying to set up their own little fiefdoms essentially in the rolling hills of that Lord of the Rings terrain, that it was becoming an issue for local area owners. So yeah, there's an international basis behind that kind of consideration as well.
Well, President Trump would always call attention to this stuff. When China was stealing our technology,
mm-hmm.
He was upfront. This is excuse me, this is dangerous. We need to stop it. Not Biden. They're just that program that President Trump put in there to prosecute professors and anybody stealing our technology.
Mm-hmm.
Biden just said, okay, that we're going to stop that. So they stopped that. And now they're letting China buy land. I remember when Governor Abbott was reelected, the first thing he did was sign a bill from the legislature saying, when he found out that base was 30 miles from the border, you cannot do this. We're not going to allow any adversary to come in the state of Texas and purchase any property, any land, anywhere near a military base. And President Biden is, I don't know, he's clueless, or he's just, I hear more and more every day about his dementia, about his cognizance, and it's sad, but we need to get over the word sadness, and we need to start saying, we need to protect our country. We need to enforce the laws. We need to secure our border. And that's what we need to be focusing on. We already know what the situation is, so we need to know how to improve it. And it's not by constantly throwing back, and saying, oh, well, he's not well. He's got dementia, or he's weak, or someone else is running the government. We just need to get to the bottom of everything. That's the truth I want.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I still have my same compunction against doing the whole armchair quarterbacking of mental illnesses. I'm not a mental health expert. If anyone is here, let us know. But more than that, none of the people we're talking about here are our patients, even if we were. And I had the same compunction during the last administration that I have on this one. But that doesn't mean to say, and therefore we can't talk about it. Let's put it this way. That the lack of transparency and clear communication on basic priorities, sure, there are speeches and there are things that are happening, but we want to talk about a difference between administrations, the clarity and the very much what the priorities are. There was never really a question, except for whenever something new came up during the last administration, given, well, for lack of a better term, the tweets. You knew exactly what it was really being considered there, and sure, it may have seemed a little chaotic at the time. Here, the change to this administration about, okay, what are the priorities, or the lack of clarity on what is really going on the myriad of issues, because if there's anything an administration has to tackle, it's many different issues, is then leaving to this being this vacuum of information that then allows the stuff to go through. So that is why I think that we are looking at approval numbers being where they are for this administration, not necessarily because he's not tweeting specifically, but because there's where are we on these issues? Because if it's not one of the bright top line major priorities right now, a question mark is left. So again, whatever it is about the mental health situation, hope it does get resolved. But the lack of activity, clarity, communication, that is a definable one that is causing more issues than not, I would argue. So thank you for the point in the call. I think we have time for at least one more before we hit that next break right now. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for taking my call. 2 points I wanted to make. Number
Mhm.
one was some time ago you had a guest on there on your program talking about climate change or the ballot. I'm sorry.
The El Paso Climate Charter.
Yes, El Paso Climate Charter. One of the things that concerns me about that is there's around 70 municipalities that are, as a result of their idea of going green, they are prohibiting any new residential construction or any commercial construction to have natural gas pipelines.
Yeah, I'm aware of California doing that kind of overall, but yeah, you're right. Individual municipalities looking at similar things I've heard of around the country.
Yes, let's see. Los Angeles is one where next January you can't have that law goes into effect and you can't have natural gas. Next one that's going to that is Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm. The idea of combustion being put out here, and I mean, okay, outside from the considerations, again, it feels a little bit on that self-owned scale because natural gas is a resource we have in vast abundance in this country, even beyond the concerns about actual gasoline, those kind of things. Natural gas, there's no doubt that we have that. And okay, I don't have a glass top. I don't have one of the newer generations of electric stoves. I'll freely admit that. But given the way that they were previously, I mean, I am very happy with my gas range. And in fact, what we're looking to do with any new housing, we are is making sure we still have that and even update it if it's possible.
Yes. What it's going to do is it's going to cost consumers a lot more money to heat their homes, cook, and et cetera, et cetera. Also, restaurants depend a lot on gas cooktops and ovens.
Particularly specific, like if you want to talk about a lot of specific like Chinese wok cooking, Thai food. I mean, a lot of this stuff ends up needing those specific cooking methods. So you might even see that being disappeared if there's not like exemptions, which when we're talking about blanket statements like this, they tend not to be.
Yes. Well, my point on that is these people who insist on everybody going green is going to make our pocketbooks go red.
Probably. Yeah. Sounds about right.
One last thing. I can't really comment on the Uvalde shooting because, like I said, I haven't read any really very much until I actually see the text of the investigation. Then I'll say something. But I will say there was a shooting yesterday in Greenwood, Illinois, and a private citizen did neutralize the attacker. 3 people were killed, 2 people were injured, but this one good guy with a gun did neutralize the threat. I don't know if you read about that.
Yeah, I believe that was actually in Indiana, but same region up there.
Yes, Greenwood, Indiana. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
but anyway, I turn the mic back to you. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. Yeah, I'll figure that'll probably still be percolating by the time we get around here to Friday, but out of our area. But yeah, I think it's been in some of our news updates anyway. A lot of conversation going on about that. Tell you what, we got to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, squeezing what we can, get to what calls we can, and more. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, a lot of stuff we're getting into, and we'll keep doing it every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So back after this break, tell you what we got working on for you. So stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso Freeway is looking pretty good right now. I-10 westbound at the Loop in the Low Valley. Stalled trucks blocking the right shoulder. Another stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. I-10 westbound at Thorn. An injury accident reported. Montwood eastbound at Kleinfeld. And just a reminder, South Desert Boulevard is closed from the Loop to Artcraft again this afternoon. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Is it senior abuse at this point? Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast, Joe Biden clearly has lost his cognitive function. He's basically like a child. So why are we allowing his family to exploit him for their financial gain? I'll explain it. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. Regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
If you are a man over 40, listen up, because this could impact how much you're getting done during the day and at night. The harsh reality is, once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. Here's the good news. Nugenix, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC, has changed the game again for men over 40 with Nugenix Total T, their most powerful man-boosting formula ever, and guys all over America are raving about it. Jeremy P. says, this is the best product I found to raise T levels. I plan on using the product for the rest of my life. And how about Shane D? He says, I had no drive and was tanked out at the end of the day. After 3 months, my energy level is through the roof. I work out like most 19-year-olds. I am 47. Guys over 40, you need Nugenix Total T. And right now, you can get a complimentary bottle. Just text EDGE to 42424. It's the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. But you can only get your complimentary bottle by texting EDGE to 42424. That's EDGE to 42424. Text EDGE to 42424.
Heads up, Texas.
So you don't rear end me when I'm at a stoplight.
So I can ride my bike safely.
So I don't have to write you a ticket. Heads up, Texas, because driving and using your phone is a bad combination. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, telling about a couple of things we're working on for you all. A little bit more delving into some of the economics, some of those situations we got going on in and around the region, particularly warehousing, and what that in a microcosm may seem like very minuscule in terms of all the other issues we face, but what that can tell us about expectations for the region, those potential economic downturns or not, and a whole lot more. Plus, also some more about immigration and economic development combined in one. An interesting program that has now begun moving forward again, and what that means for our region. So a lot of stuff we're developing for you. So, of course, stay tuned for that every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. I think we have time to squeeze in at least one more quick call here. We do have Alvin in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Alvin, we got about a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note to Ms. Barbara that I don't. It looks like she's always defending, one side. Well, I can tell you, I look at both sides, but I do want to say about during the Bush #2 administration, he lied to the American people about the nuclear weapons in Iraq. They were never found. Another thing is. He should have thought twice before he would. It's a good thing, go in Afghanistan, but look at that disaster that happened. It's hard. You will never defeat those people from Afghanistan. History has taught us the Russians tried, Alexander the Great tried, the British, Genghis Khan tried, and this country does not seem to learn its lesson. And that's why she should read her history. And also, I want to know I'd like to find out that if during the Bush and also Reagan, Bush 1 and Reagan administration, if they were letting Noriega pass transport drugs into the United States, especially cocaine during their administrations, So that's what I would like to know. She seems to be one-sided, and I sure like to have an argument with her because, face-to-face argument. But you know what? I really don't care for her, and I could care less about her opinions.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, thank you very much for the point in the call, entitled to your opinion there. I mean, there is a reason that Afghanistan is, or that region, even before it became known what it is now, is known as the graveyard of empires. But, well, we'll keep getting delving into the opinions as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. We'll again do it tomorrow here on the show. So thank you everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. The conversations and the discussion points that happen here are very much important to me. Anyway, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Thorne, a stalled truck is blocking the right shoulder. Also a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder on the 10 westbound at the loop in the Low Valley. Edgemere Boulevard, eastbound at Tierra Este, an injury accident there. Use Pebble Hills or Joe Battle as your alternates. And Wrestler Drive, southbound south of Belvedere, an injury accident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
With so many real estate agents to choose from, how do you find the best one? Hi, it's Glenn Beck. One key is just looking for the investment that an agent is willing to make to get your home sold. Brian Birds with eXp Realty and his team have a marketing budget 25 times higher than the average agent's annual income. This means your home gets maximum exposure because it's marketed to the widest possible audience and gets you the highest possible sales price. Brian is so confident in his ability to sell your home fast and for more money that he's willing to put his own money on the line. If your home doesn't sell at the price and deadline you agreed to, he'll buy it from you himself. You're not going to find another real estate agent in El Paso who is that invested in getting your home sold. He's the only one I'd call. Google Brian Birds. That's Brian, B-U-R-D-S. Read over 400 five-star reviews because I'm not the only one who knows you should call Brian Birds. Google Brian Birds or just check out brianbirds.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.